Hello, and welcome to today's devotional. I'll start out by saying this mess back here, I'm in the middle of changing some things here in the office. So, unfortunately, I've got a bit of a mess around me, and I'm too lazy to clean it all up just for the video for today. So, sorry about that. It'll be cleaned up by next time. Anyway, as the way it goes sometimes, in the middle of changing things around. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. And bless you. And let's just take a look at our scripture today. We're working our way through Proverbs, and we're in chapter 6, verse 32. And so we're going one verse at a time, of course. And so here's today's verse. It says, "The one who commits adultery with a woman is lacking sense. He who would destroy himself does it." So the implication here is, how stupid is that? It's kind of, in the way it's written in that poetic way, but the idea is, how stupid is it for somebody who commits adultery? It's like, are you trying to destroy yourself? And that's kind of the idea there. It's like, you're lacking sense. Why would a person want to destroy themselves? So that's kind of the gist of the sentence. Person who commits adultery with a woman is lacking sense. He who would destroy himself does it. Why did people do stupid things? I wonder. We all do stupid things. I mean, it's just part of the human condition. It seems is that we make stupid choices. We do things without thinking. I mean, that stuff happens, right? You're trying to open the door and you got too many things in your hand. You got your coffee hanging from your teeth and you're trying to do that, and then you end up spilling the coffee, and it's like, oh, that was stupid. Why did I do that? We all do stuff like that. And some of that stuff is just just life. But then there's these big things, right? There's these really big things where we make decisions that we know better, like we know it's not right, and yet we make the decision. And then later it comes back on us and it harms us. And we're like, oh, so stupid. Why did I do that? And we have regret later. And part of our regret is we can see that we should have known, or maybe even did know better, but yet chose to do the thing that brought on this pain. This tragedy occurs because we self-inflict the pain by making a choice that's not sensible. And so this is the thing people do, and we all do it. And it's terrible. And not just the little ones, but sometimes with really big things. And so this is one of those. It's like, a person who commits adultery, like, you have an affair with your neighbor's wife, right? Like, you're really like, what do you think? How did you ever think that was going to turn out okay, right? That's kind of the idea there. So, we won't be exhaustive about this, but to sort of study this idea of why people do this, it's all part of the puzzle of self-deception. We lie to ourselves, right? So there's a thing and we want it, we really want it, and the motivating forces of our desire, our appetite, whatever it is, push us forward. And because we have learned in our life to satisfy those kinds of desires rather than to deny them, we satisfy them. We try to find a way to satisfy them. And if there seems to be a barrier, then one of the things we do is we lie to ourselves about the barrier. We'll say that it's not really a thing. We'll go through all these self-deceptions so that we can satisfy the appetite or the desire, whatever the thing is. So we exchange a truth for a lie, right? So we say, this really isn't a problem because of this, even though we know it is. We decide to exchange the two, and we convince ourselves in the moment that something that's a lie is actually a truth, and something that's a truth is actually the lie or is the falsehood. And so we exchange them. We do a switch, all in the name of trying to satisfy our drive or desire, whatever it is. This is one of the reasons, by the way, it's so important to teach your kids when they're young, how to manage their emotions so that their emotions don't drive them forward. Because the more we learn as young people, when we learn that every emotional impulse I have has to be satisfied, then we will grow up thinking every emotional impulse I have has to be satisfied. And that leads to doom. It's not a good thing. That's what we do. So we end up exchanging the truth we know, the thing we know is sensible, for the thing that isn't sensible, because we want we want more than we want to have the truth. We want the other thing. And so we make this exchange. It's almost like we think We can just change reality if we can convince ourselves that something different is true. And it really is. It really is like this. Humans do this all the time. It's like if I can just convince myself of this thing I want to be true, then that'll make it true. Of course, truth isn't dependent on you at all in any way whatsoever. And so it just merely goes on its way, and you find yourself in trouble because reality didn't change just because you wanted to. But it's like we think that way, right? We think we can smother the truth out and it won't be true anymore if we can just convince ourselves of these things. And so we do it, right? We like to think, and in our modern day, right now in the world, by the way, this is really big because right now in the world, everybody is become so relative in their thinking about what truth is. Truth is in the minds of so many people. It's just subjective. It just depends on you and your view of things, and all these different people have different views on things, but your view matters. And there's this word that's kind of risen up in the last idea of this idea of what is a social construct, or a construct somehow that this and this idea, or that idea, this thing, that thing, they're all just constructs. And they like to use this idea. And one of the reasons is because if it's just a construct, well, then you can deconstruct it, can't you? And reconstruct it however you want to. It's just a thing. It's yours to do with as you please. Problem is, that's not what truth is like. The truth of things, the objective, solid, rock solid reality of life isn't a construct. It's not just something you made up. You're not God, right? As much as we might want to be God sometimes, we're not God. We didn't create the world and the reality. We live within the world and within the reality. And so learning what's true and disciplining yourself so that you can objectively say, this is what's true, regardless of what I want. That's subjective. But objectively, outside of me, this is a true thing. It would, in this case, it will be wrong. There would be something wrong and destructive in committing adultery. There would be a bad thing out of that. And that's separate from me. That's a reality. Now, if I decided that I'm going to make that just a construct and try and deconstruct it and reconstruct it however I want, it's not going to change the destructive nature of committing adultery. It's still going to be destructive. It still is. Won't change a thing. Truth doesn't change just because we want it to, right? What happens though is we lack sense. We do the stupid thing because we want to change it. We think somehow our force of will somehow have that divine power to change the world. But it's kind of foolish, isn't it? But then what happens is as we do that and we go on our way, then our pride or our arrogance or whatever it is, we then aren't happy because reality does crouch in. So we're not usually happy with just deceiving ourselves. We then move to trying to deceive others. And it's almost like somewhere in the mind of a person that learns these habits of life, this self-deception habit. It's almost like they think, if I can convince you that it's true, then it will be true. So it's the same idea, right? If I can just convince enough other people that this construct is this way, then it will be that way. And that's, once again, lacking sense. It didn't depend on the group any more than it depended on you. But we move to this. So a person that gets in this habit isn't content anymore just deceiving themselves. They then become more and more insistent on deceiving everyone else around them as well, thinking it'll change, but it doesn't. And so this proverb says, man, if you do this, you're lacking sense. That's just it. You're lacking sense, and it will lead to your self-destruction. That self-deception leads to self-destruction, right? He who would destroy himself does this. And that's the idea here is if you embrace this kind of approach to temptation, you're going to do those stupid things and you're going to destroy yourself. It's just going to happen. And then later, you'll regret it and you'll say, boy, why did I do that? I should have known better. But then, of course, it's too late. So the wisdom of Proverbs today is just once again reminding us, and it's using the specific example of adultery, which we should take it to heart. But it applies to so many things, right? We need to be careful about making those decisions, committing a choice, right? Adultery in this case, in spite of what is sensible. When we make that choice, we're going to find throughout the rest of the book of Proverbs this reference to a fool, right? The person who lacks that sense and destroys himself because he thought somehow he could change reality by force of his own will. Anyway, something to think about today. I pray that God will help us all to be people who walk in sense rather than to sacrifice the sense just to chase our desires and our temptations. God willing, I'll be back on Friday. I'm not going to be able to do a video tomorrow. I have too full of a schedule tomorrow, but hopefully on Friday we'll get to verse 33. And in the meantime, God bless you. Have a great day.